What's going on, YouTube? It's James with Shyhammer Fantasy, and I got a sneak peek here today on my computer. You guys can't see it, but you know what? It's fine. Believe me that it's there. But it's basically a sneak peek on the ONG book. Basically, if you guys have already seen the Glory of the Golden State Gaming or PTG Proxy Boys videos on the book, you could actually see the statistics for yourself. So this book is about to be released in a couple days, more or less, and I just wanted to give my review, my I don't want to say blessing or curse to it, but what I think of it. I watched a lot of what they were saying, and obviously everybody thinks of the book differently, and most of you know me as the ONG guy, so I see the book differently than most people, so that's why I felt like I would be properly doing a review, more or less. I'm not going to do like a whole hour, 2 hour review. I don't have that much time. I have to go to work in a bit. So there's a lot of things that have been changed. A lot of the units kind of got shrunk down into smaller units, meaning like the options. There used to be like core boar boys and special boar boys. Now there's just feral or non-feral, and they're in two different categories. The war cry still has the +1 movement. That's fine. That's the same. They actually changed it so that orcs and goblins have maximize. I'm sorry, orcs have maximize, not goblins. Goblins, if the general's a demogog or a witch doctor, and they have goblin cunning, they gain light troops, but they lose scoring. Okay, interesting. I mean, that's real interesting because you can war cry and just like scatter like bugs, more or less. And that's actually pretty fun to do as a goblin player. I've done both kind of lists. I've done all orc lists, and I've done all goblin lists, and I've done mostly mixtures of both for myself. Whatever I find is more useful for me at the moment. So that is something that is it's kind of fun. You can play with if you're going to take the orc general or the goblin general. Big changes. There's a beloved mascot. Beloved mascot allows the units that either orcs or goblins that have the keywords goblin cunning or brood rivalry to gain hatred. All right. The beloved mascots are grotlings, pump wagons, which you're probably going to see a lot more pump wagons coming up in the future, and giants. But giants, you would have to take the upgrade to be the mascot, which is a free upgrade, but that means you're losing out on the options of like a club or arm to the teeth, which is something that they have now. Brood Alpha is a champion upgrade. Actually, most units in the book have a free champion upgrade for orcs, and I think that is fucking awesome. I mean, it kind of makes sense that there's an alpha in the orc unit that they look at as like the that's the guy, those alphas have extra attacks, extra health, as well as a great weapon, and all the alphas are discipline 7. There's brood rivals. Brood rivals are any orc that sees another orc in combat with the same keyword, brood rival, will get +1 on their attack. So it basically creates tactics where if you're in combat with a giant block of, just say, savage orcs, they're in combat, and there might be like a chariot that's an orc chariot in combat somewhere else in the map, right? You probably want to use your savage orcs with the +1 attack first before you get to the orc chariot. So that's a possibility. It changes tactics a little bit. Changes on maybe you might benefit more from the +1 attack versus the overrun on a certain fight. Okay. It does say a model of brood rivalry that from another friendly unit that's engaged in combat anywhere on the battlefield. So it could be in the same combat, which could be devastating for your opponent. All right. Creepy crawlies is a rule just for spiders, more or less. It gives them ghost step, which is something that came back. It's been gone for however long. Ghost step is basically allowing them to go over impassable terrains, houses. So that's something that also offers different mechanics and tactics. You could kind of like put your spider slightly behind a building. They can see out and then charge over it. That's something that you could do. But you also get poison attacks on the spider part, obviously. Darmu is a goblin general. It basically allows you to make duplicates of the army list on goblin units. So just say if there's a max of 2 in a goblin unit. I'll just use an example, like 1 spider. You get 1 spider, but if you have a only goblin list, you could take 2 spiders, kind of a deal. You know what I mean? But you're limited on how many orcs you could take. 10% of the army could only be, which is like 450 points of orcs. The same thing exists for the tribe leader. Tribe leader is the orc version of it. Vice versa, you get more orc units, but you get only 10% goblin. Goblin cunning is the new thing for goblins. Goblin cunning allows you to choose to flee. Just choose to flee. You know, if somebody's gonna charge you and they cause terror, you can just say, "I'm gonna flee," and you don't even have to. Before the dice are rolled, you can just choose to flee, and then you automatically rally on the next, on your next turn. So that gives you a lot of tricks and a lot of gameplay mechanics with goblins. Crude weapons. This is a nerf. Crude weapons is basically the feral orcs. I think feral orcs are the only ones that have the crude weapons. No matter what weapon they have, no matter what upgrade you bought for them, I think besides the character, their weapons break, and once they break, they don't get any parry, they don't get any spear bonuses, no AP, they don't get paired weapons. They just have a hand weapon until the combat is over. Now, fluff wise, I think this is kind of fun because as the combat's over, and if your unit lived, they're picking up the weapons from the dead. Fluff wise, I enjoy that. Out of fluff wise, it really lowers the usefulness of savage orcs, but that's also reflected in the point cost. Okay. Force of destruction. I think this is just basically. I think these are just the random movers. They basically, if they get hit, they get removed now, no matter what. If they run into somebody, or if somebody ran into them, they get removed. But basically, that's about it. New hereditary. I really like the new hereditary. It's either +1 to hit, but it's also +1 to charge, flees, pursuits, and overruns. Okay, if you're an orc. If you're a goblin, it's -1 to hit and -1 to charge, flees, pursuits, and overruns. They I'm gonna be honest with you, the ONG books, I think every iteration since T9A started, I've enjoyed like the Orc and Goblin magic. I think that there's been a lot of fun stuff they used. I used to like it when the goblins had whatever hereditary or attribute you had. There was a couple other ones that were there, and I've always enjoyed Orc and Goblin magic. That's kind of like yin and yang stuff. The special items, real quick, they kind of got toned down about a lot. Weapons, there's only the Omen of Apocalypse, and I don't even really remember many people bringing the Omen of Apocalypse to begin with. But then they took away Shady Shanking, they took away the Mazazappa, they took away a couple other items, and all they have in replacement is the Attack Gnasher. And the Attack Gnasher's 3 attack, strength 5. But besides that, which is fun, it's a fun item. I'm not gonna knock on that, but there's a lack of weapons you could take with a general that would be deadly, more or less, unless you're taking the freaking Omen of Apocalypse, which is 110 points. And I think one of the guys on PTG or even it was a Golden State that said it, like, you could just take Kingslayer for like 50 points, and it basically does the same thing, roughly. So it's kind of I was kind of trying to make a list out of it, and it just kind of defaulted to like I could take great weapons or paired weapons with Touch of Greatness, because there's not really many options there, unless I want to take a lot of hits with the Gnasher. Banners, I love the banners. The banners that came out, they're beautiful. I don't mind losing the Green Tide banner. The Green Tide banner kind of got pseudo put into the units, the army rules. So they have a banner that gives poison. Not really sure on how you're going to use it unless you have a full goblin army and you want a giant brick of goblins with poison. Other than that, I don't really see where that vile poison banner is useful. It's only for goblins. The Ed Basher trophy is kind of a hard banner to use. You have to use it on a special unit, so it really kind of comes down to Boar Boys, or you could take a core unit and upgrade them to a special unit, which it's okay. That's a valid strategy currently. But this banner does give distracting lethal strikes and lightning reflexes, which are all great, but it's randomized. So again, I love stuff like that. I love randomization. That's very orcish. Okay. Totem of the Only King. It only works on orcs, but basically gives them the +1 attack. Tuck-Tex Guard got nerfed. Nerfed and buffed at the same time, but at the same time, the price went up to 75 points. It gets resilience 6 and +1 health. It lost the immunity to lethal strike, but it also got the nerf where you can only take it on standard height, which means boar boys or character on foot. Skull finish is increased by how many orcs are in combat or how many goblins are rallying. A new item, Monster Munch, which I think is just beautiful. It's a bound spell totemic summon. It's fucking great. Pants protection lost its MR, but still the same. Goga's Brew is a drink for goblins that basically gives them fearless and unstable. Wow, that's pretty funny. All right, but it gives it to the whole unit. That's actually pretty fun. That's pretty fun. Unstable, you're not gonna destroy the whole unit if it's a big ass unit. Orc characters. My gripe about orc characters is you can only take a general or you can only take a loner. There is no anything else, no other option. So if I wanted to take 2 characters, I can't have just say I wanted to have Zod on a chariot and I wanted to have a second orc character in a boar on the unit. You can't do that. The other character has to be a loner, so you would have to switch places. Zod would have to be in the boar unit and then the other guy's a loner. It does open up options. The loner is stubborn. The loner is an Iron Orc automatically. Iron Orc alone lost the ability to be fearless. So I think there's most things are not fearless in the Orc and Goblin book, and they used to I played a game not too long ago where someone's like, panic. I'm like, dude, nothing in my army panics. Nothing. Either frenzy, insignificant, or banner discipline, or Iron Orc, or whatever, so nothing was really panicking. Now I think everything can panic, but it's just a very decent minimize check. I'll explain that right now. Orc leadership was dropped by 1 point. It went from leadership 9 to leadership 8. Okay, that's a nerf. That would be fucking huge if the next part, it says it's minimized for break tests, fear tests, and panic tests, and those are the 3 main things that I think fluff-wise it works well. I think that if they're going to be strong at something, it's strong at wanting to fight, and that's kind of what that represents, and I'm fine with that. The biggest nerf to orcs is they lost strength. They went from strength 6 to strength 5. And I know people are like, oh, they were always strength 5. They're strength 5, and then the first round they were strength 6 before. Now they're just strength 5. So that's kind of where the weapons kind of like, what do you want to bring? Because not only is it the warlords, all orcs have lost 1 strength. All orcs have lost either 2 or 1 8 armor piercing. And it's like it's a big, like, ooh. They're not known to be can openers. They are just not known to be can openers. They could beat a bunch of like naked little beastmen or demons all they want, but they cannot fight a freaking night bus. They just can't. But anyways, the character options, you get the wyvern, you get the grunter, or the grunter is a boar, sorry. Or a boar chariot, and like I said, the loner is stubborn, but the orc general is not. So there's many different ways you can play with that, and the characters are exclusive. So basically, if you get a feral orc, you can't put him in an iron orc unit. You have to take a feral orc in a feral orc unit. It says very specifically on this leak, more or less. Orc shamans are roughly the same. They do get all the extra bonuses of having the brood rivalry. They are exclusive to anybody who is an orc or a troll. Okay, orcs, basically the shamans do get wyverns, they do get chariots, they do get boars. That's fun. That's fine. The goblins, there's the Goblin Lord, which is a demagogue. They get a new ability called Goblin Gardens, which allows you to put dangerous terrains on the field for everybody except goblins. Okay, and that means everybody but goblins. It does mean your own orcs are probably going to take dangerous terrains if you have a goblin leader. Goblins are leadership 8. They don't get the minimize rule. They do have the goblin cunning rule though, so you can flee and just rally automatically, which is fun. Goblin lords are the only ones who can get a gargantula besides wizards. Okay, just let me put that out there. Gargantulas, I'll go over that in a second. Yeah. So Goblin Lords are also the only ones that can take a battle standard bearer, and I'm going to be very point that out right now. Orcs, orc generals, obviously, orc warlords do not get a BSB option. There's no orc heroes at all. So that means you have a goblin lord that's a BSB, or another option, which is you can make a unit BSB, which is okay. We'll see how that. I mean, we're gonna see how that goes in the future. As this book is released, we're gonna see how this evolve more or less. Let's see. The Goblin Witch Doctor is, as long as you take an adept or a master, you could take a Gargantula. So basically, for 500 points, if you really, really, really want a Gargantula, you could get a Gargantula for an adept, and you basically got a Gargantula with a spellcaster on it. It doesn't get a shrine. It doesn't get anything extra. You lose stubborn on the spiders. Gargantulas don't have spider or stubborn anymore. Gargantulas lose one attack. They lost the venomous surge attack, if anything, and they lost 1 health. Other than that, though, the witch doctors are roughly the same lores. They have goblin heroes, which are called Guktuk initiates. Right? The Guktuks, which I really find cool, is 40 points. These characters have 4 options. You can take them as a mauler, which gives them a great weapon, battle focus and hatred. You can take them as a netter, and they could net, which gives -1 agility and -1 armor piercing for the people that are under the nets. They could have, and it looks just like it automatically happens. There's no fail on a 1. You just automatically net, right? There's Madgets, which are basically what the Fanatics, I don't know if I have any right here, but Fanatics, you just push them out the unit, and now they're just random movers, and random movers 2d6, which you get to choose the direction. I want to go that way, 2d6, right? And then Headhunters. Headhunters are characters that have poison attacks, march and shoot, throwing weapons for 3 shots, okay? The thing about these guys, and if you want these guys to have these initiates to have mounts, the mounts are free, but you have to have another unit that they hide in, and they'll pop out with that mount. These characters are all hidden. All of them start hidden, okay? I don't know if the hidden rule allows you to put them out there not hidden, if you're just like, I want them to start out here, but whatever. I don't know about that, but they're exclusive to, they're not leaders. They are light troops. They have paired weapons. They're one of the only units that have AP2 on this whole army. Okay? They have distracting and light armor, so they're real fun units. They're real dangerous little goblin motherfuckers as little upgrades, right? Offensive 4, defensive 4, tough 4. No. Tough 3. Sorry, tough 3, strength 4, agility 4, right? The upgrades cost 10 points, and then the mauler's free, right? So they could pop up in a goblin unit. There's a new ambushing unit they could pop up behind with them, you know. There's also just other goblin units. You could just be like, all right, here's my fanatics. Throw out your fanatics, right? We'll see how that goes. All right. As for the mounts, you got a boar. The boar hasn't changed much. Chariots haven't changed much. Wyvern lost the venomous surge. The beastie is the name of just the beast you get, and it's movement 8. So dogs have lost their movement by 1, but spiders have gained a movement by 1. That's pretty funny. Beasties actually get 2 attacks. That's pretty interesting. I didn't know that. I don't know if it's like a Lord Beastie thing or what, but offensive 3, strength 3. You could, yeah, that's it. AP1 on the beasties. That's fun. Again, the fucking dogs get +1 armor piercing, not the damn orcs. Not a fucking jacked up, bone crushing orc. They're a dog. All right. Anyways, beastie chariots are now movement 8, which are wolf chariots, and the wolf chariots again you're getting 2 attacks apiece, but they still have the D6 +1 impact hits, but they lost that 1 movement, and there's ways to get it back. The way to get it back is more or less the spells, witchcraft, or the H spell, the hereditary spell, or the Wog gets it a +1. So there's ways. Pet monster is a huntsman spider, or a squig, the medium-sized squigs, the 40 mil. All right, they're only strength 5, meaning the squig got nerfed. It used to be strength 6. And then if you take the huntsman spider, you do get the creepy crawly upgrade, which means you could go over impassable, you can go over whatever you want, really, more or less. It does get only +1 armor. I think the huntsman spider used to get +2 back in the day. It might have been +2, but that might have been a long time ago. It's been a while since I played with the huntsman spider. Gargantula. A character Gargantula is better than a regular Gargantula in the book. Character Gargantula still has a 4-up armor. Still has, well, it only has 7 wounds. Still movement 7. Still has the 8 crew. And has been upgraded to strength 6. That's nice. Strength 6, tough 6. Okay. But you can only get them if you're taking a Goblin Wizard or a Goblin Lord. Alright, core. You got Goblins. The Goblins lost their shields. So if you want shields, you have to buy them for 1 point a model, which, you know. I don't know, because it says, it's interesting. It says you can buy a bow for 1. That's weird. That's so weird. I gotta check that out. So it says, I think it's just because if you want to pay for parry. I think that's what it is. Alright, so anyways, I just noticed this right now. So the Goblin unit, it's called Goblin Rabble. You can buy a bow for 1 point. You can only have 100 rank and file models in the army that have bows or crossbows. So they combine them. You can get a spear and shield for free, which means you get the shield still. And you got a spear. I'm okay with that. I am totally okay with that. But you can buy a shield by itself for 1 point. Okay? Which means, I think that's just because you want to pay for the parry, but not for the armor piercing 2, whatever, you know? Goblins itself got reduced to strength 2. So they're still 5-up armor with spears. Okay. I'm thanks, I guess. Anyways, Goblin Reavers are the Raiders. The Raiders now are in scoring. In core, they are scoring though. You can take up to 3 of them or 4 of them if you have a Goblin only army. You can take up to 25. Who the fuck is taking 25 wolves or spiders in a fucking giant brain? What the fuck? Who the fuck made that rule? Like, yeah, I'm gonna play all 25 of these fucking Battle of Skull Pass spiders, man. Anyways, you could take them as creepy crawlies for 3 point a model. 3 point a model for 25. You're paying 75 points for fucking 25 spiders on top of the normal point cost. Anyways, you get a lance and shield for free. They're still only strength 2, so there's gonna be strength 4 charges. You can't take bows on them unless you take them with the spies, and then once you take them as spies, they lose scoring and get the Faint Flight, Light Troops, Vanguard stuff. They are not scouts. They lost the ability to scout. Yeah, they don't have scout on there at all. But if you could just take them with the standard bearer, you get a bearer enchantment. You can't take that if you have a spy. Okay. Feral Orcs, here's the big one. Feral Orcs have they have crude weapons, so their weapons break. They're strength 4, never strength 5 unless you do magic buffs, and they're AP 0. Okay. Hearing this, people were like, "Oh, you're gonna be upset about this. You're gonna be upset about that." And at first, I was like, "What do they do to my boys, man? What do they do?" But then I saw the point cost, and when I saw the point cost, I was like, "Man, that ain't that bad, man. You could take 40 of these fucks. You could take 40 pretty easily. 40 of them. I think. Hold on 1 second. Let me see. I made a little spreadsheet here. 40 of them with a banner." Musician, free champ. Oops, let me hit that. Dismiss. Free champ, and bows and a flaming banner just for the hell of it was 450 points out of core. I'm not mad at that. I am not mad. I thought at first I had a very negative, like knee-jerk reaction, like, "Oh, what are they doing?" You know, they're not only defensive 2, offensive 3, but they gave them paired weapons and spears for free for that first round. Then they lose it. They get battle focus still, but then Frenzy changed where you're not fearless with Frenzy. So they're frenzied, but they can still get terrored off. Now it's minimized rolls on leadership checks with the savages, with orcs in general. So 450 points, 40 bodies, put them right next to General or BSB, or they can be the BSB themselves. That's not bad. That's really not bad, you know. I'm not mad at it, you know. I'm kind of curious on how the games are going to go. I'm kind of curious how the meta is going to shift. Orcs aren't a army. Like right now I'm going to Wicked this weekend, and with the old set of rules, And orcs, I think I'm the only orc player, the only one there. Pablo's gonna go, Pablo Willenick, and he said he's not gonna bring him because he knows the book was about to change. And I was like, well, it's the last hurrah. I'll just go out with a bang, kind of a deal. But so nobody's really coming to fight giant horde armies that are tough 4, strength 4, just coming in to charge at your face. That's not how people play orcs and goblins right now. Most people who do play orcs and goblins right now either come with big goblin bricks or, medium arms orcs, more or less. And I play like a medium arms orcs. My biggest unit's 28 orcs. Anyways, I gotta hurry this up though because I do gotta get to work. So I know I said I wasn't gonna do an hour, and I'm just trying to cut it down there. Feral Orc Boar Boys, they lost 1 strength. They lost the devastating attack on the charge, so they're only getting paired weapons, 2 attacks apiece, but they do get the +1 for the Orc rivalry thing. So they can get a lot of attacks, but it's only going to be strength 4, AP 0. Okay. They are a blender though if you're not fighting a high armored unit. Okay. Orc Ed Bashers, they're called veteran orcs. They do cost more, and they cost more for 2 reasons. Number 1, their weapons don't break. Number 2 is they have armor piercing 1. Okay, so their armor piercing 1, again, 40 of them out of core is not that much. It's not that much. Probably like 500 or 600 points roughly. They can take spears, paired weapons, or shields, or bows, or all of it. But you get you just start paying for upgrades, more or less. You can't take paired weapons and spears. You can only take one or the other. Okay. They do have like if you take shields, you'll have a 5-up armor, pretty decent unit, right? You can make them the BSB unit. Any of these you can make the BSB unit, and they jump out of core and go into special as the BSB. Okay, but that's when you start to get interesting banners when you're the BSB unit. Okay, special. You got veteran boar boys. The veteran boar boys, they drop 1 strength, which I was enjoying that strength 7. That's kind of why I just busted them out recently. They're in that box somewhere, and but they're going to be strength 6, right? They do get the extra attack for the brood rivalry, which is awesome. They dropped 1 armor. They went from 2-up armor to a 3-up armor. But they do have the banner upgrades, and you could kind of take some of the fun banners with this unit, specifically this unit, because some of the fun banners you can't take in the Iron Orc unit, which is next. Iron Orc unit, they're only discipline 7. Okay, I think they were discipline 8 before. I think they were, but they're stubborn. And they're stubborn, period. No bodyguard. I could see people bringing 3 units of them just to be stubborn bricks and just go out there and doing their thing. It says 2 per army, 3 if you're taking an orc-only army. Okay? They're the only ones who could buy crossbow upgrades out of special. Don't really know how many people will buy crossbows for these guys. Like, maybe. I mean, okay, let's just be, be fair here. 15 of them, maybe 16 of them. 15, 350 points. And then another 15 points for crossbows. And it's a stubborn crossbow unit. You just kind of go out there like... They still follow the same rule for the 100 rank and file models with bows and crossbows. You could only take 20 crossbows if you're not a mono orc army. Okay, you could take 40 if you are a mono orc army. They still have weapon master. Here's the big deal: is they're also strength 4. I personally struggle wanting to take this unit at all because 22 points a model. 22 points a model for, you get a great weapon, you get paired weapons, you get a shield, right? You got 3-up armor. I get that, right? But you're only going to end up taking like, I think I try to make a list with like 25 with a decent banner with the character upgrades, champ, musician, standard. Ended up being like 680, 700 points out of special for a unit that could kind of get wrecked. Even though it's stubborn, it's still going to get wrecked. It's not that good. It's just not. The price is off on that one for me. Stubborn, I get it. It's stubborn. But I think for strength 4 AP 2, what are you fighting? That's strength 4 AP 2, you know what I mean? It's just, I don't feel it. On the other hand, they created a new unit called the Iron Orc chariot. The Iron Orc chariot is you could take 2 in a unit. If you take 2 in a unit, you get a champ, and for free. You get a champ, and you get a banner. That's fucking awesome. And then you have 2 guys on each Iron Orc chariot, and they have paired weapons or great weapons. So that's a lot of attacks. I think the answer here is you get the 2 guys, 4 because there's 2 in each chariot. Okay, paired weapons makes them 8 attacks, and then Brood Rivalry gives them another 4 attacks, so they're 12 attacks. Champion, that guy gets another attack, so it's 13 attacks, not including your impact hits, not including the boars. I think that unit's pretty nasty for what it costs. It costs like 420 points, I think. But the one thing that it does, it's also interesting, I noticed, is they're not light troops. So if you put a character on a chariot, which has to be your general, because you can't make another character on a chariot, apparently, they count as rank. So that's pretty fun. All right. This is a fun unit. It's called the Goktuk Neophytes. Goktuk Neophytes are ambushers. You could only get 1 in the army unless you got goblin only army. So you could get 2, but the goblins pop up, ambush, and you could take those characters that the 40 to 50 point characters and put them in this unit, so they could pop up with the unit. They're hidden, they pop out, and all of a sudden this unit has poison. They have throwing weapons. At first, people, like, I've heard people say, oh, they're like forest goblins. No, man, these guys are ninjas. Fucking ninjas. That's what they are. Throwing weapons with poison. Their agility 3, strength 3, armor piercing 1. That's great for coming out there. You can take up to 15 creepers. 15 creepers, ambushing. You're getting 30 paired weapon throws, not including characters. 30 throws on 6s. You're bound to hit 5 6s that are poison. And you could kill a war machine. So, I think it's a very good unit. You don't have to ambush them. You could scout them. They'll have hard target. They'll have light troops. They'll have skirmish. It's a skirmishing unit, like a normal. They have Strider, but they lose scoring. Okay? And that's kind of where I find this unit real interesting, is you could take them scoring. You could take them with like 20 deep or whatever. Or you could just take them with the creepers. You know what I mean? So, if you wanted to not struggle with breakthrough, you could pop these guys out. Boop. I'm in the back there. I'm on this scoring spot. If not, you could just have a nice poison unit, and I like them both ways. I'm struggling to find the points for this on the list that I'm building, but I'm going to eventually play with them. Eventually. K-Pack, I love them. I love the K-Pack, but they lost 1 movement, and that kind of hurts what they did. Goblins on top are now strength 2, and the Iron Orcs are just much stronger. Iron Orc chariots are 3 up armor, by the way. Grotlings are mascots, so if the Grotling is in combat with the same unit of any other orc, I think Orc or Goblin, they get hatred, which is just crazy. But then you have the risk of Grotlings being in the combat. Like, who wants that? Scrap wagons are a different story. Scrap wagons, you can take a 3 up in the army, you can have them as mascots, and they go in, they do grind attacks, strength 4, AP 3. Why do they get AP 3? Because it's a rickety cart? What the fuck? Alright, Nashers are pretty much untouched except for their defense 2. Nashers are one of the units that's still strength 5 AP 2. One of the only units in the whole book that's strength 5 AP 2. You can still take them as dashers. Their price, I think, is up a little. I want to say it's up a little. It might be the same. Wrecking teams, the price went down, but that's because they automatically die if they hit anything. They also lowered how much AP. I think it was AP 4. And they used to do 3d6 AP 4 if somebody ran into them. Now it's 2d6 if they run into anybody or if anybody runs into them. Trolls, God, trolls are the biggest disappointment in this whole book. There's no reason. I'm gonna be fucking blunt. There's no reason to bring a troll. There's no reason. I cannot justify 165 points for a tough 5 movement 4 monster or monstrous infantry that only has 2 attacks. There's no puke. There's nothing else to them. They get, you could buy upgrades to make them harder to hit or harder to wound, but that means nothing when they do nothing back. They did lose stupidity. Oh, whoop-de-fucking-do. They lost stupidity, but they only do 2 attacks. All right? I can guarantee you, nobody's going to take them. Okay? If somebody takes them, there must be some savant in the game, right? But, like, I try to contemplate, like, okay, maybe you could take 3 of these guys, because that's the bare minimum unit size. 3 of them, and just run them up a flank, okay? They are fearless. 160 points, you could take them as chaff, okay? You could take them as chaff, it's 165 points. They are fearless, they won't run away, okay? You know what? Thinking about it, I might just take them as chaff, because they won't run away. But seriously, I don't understand what they do. They stomp? That's it? Is that what I'm paying 165 points for? Chaff that stomps? There is nothing to it. 2 attacks. 2 attacks. This is for movement 4. You can't, you get March 12. March 12. Okay, so whoop-de-doo, you can march, right? Discipline 6. I don't get it. They get a champ for 10. All right. Goblin artillery skewer is the same. Splatter is the same. Gate launcher is lowered in strength. It's only strength 4. So was the maggots. The maggots are only strength 4. The gate launcher got more impact hits when it hits. It does 2d6. Strength 4 hits AP 2. If you miss the first shot but you hit the second shot, the partial hit, you don't hit them. You drop a fanatic right near where you were supposed to hit, up to 3 inches away, and it will just be a summoned unit. The next turn, you can move it into whatever you want to move it into, unless they got killed. Okay? I find that interesting. I do find it interesting that you could just kind of like drop off something and run into them. There's some spots. There's some armies that just don't have any answer to that. They don't have. They're close combat armies, and they're just whatever. So you could just drop off a random mover there, and you're like, deal with it. Okay? Giants. Giants are roughly the same, except they gained the options of being a mascot for free, taking the giant club for free, or taking arm to the teeth. Arm to the teeth gives them paired weapons, great weapons, or shields if a friendly unit's in combat that also has that ability, those items. So the great weapons, paired weapons, shields are pretty much in every orc unit except for if you didn't buy shield upgrades. I mean, most of them have those items. The great weapons come on the champs, so it's pretty easy for the giant to have any of those items if you take the arm for the teeth for a 25-point upgrade. They also have Giant See, Giant Do, which is Brood Rivalry, and the minimize leadership checks. Okay. The Guardian Behemoth is the new Build-A-Monster feat. The Build-A-Monster feat, it's kind of like a mini spider, except you don't got the poison. You got a couple goblins on a Howdah, and it's strength 6, tough 6, and you basically buy your upgrades. You can buy it to be a mini spider. The mini spider is going to have only either a 6-up armor, but it will have the normal size for a spider. It'll be only 7 wounds, and it will have poison and ghost step. Or you can buy it with impact hits and have it be a rammer thing. And you can only buy 2 upgrades though. That's the deal. Is you can only buy 2 upgrades. So you either buy it with armor, impact hits, frenzy, random movement, regen, but more or less you can buy 2 upgrades. It's just a Build-A-Monster. You're probably going to end up being with like a 350-point monster out there. You only get 1 in the army unless you have a goblin-only army. Great Green Idol, last item in the entry. I did this video in 40 minutes. Great Green Idol, at first I overlooked it. I was like, whatever. Great Green Idol, it's about the same, right? No, it's not the same. It got a bound spell, lets you do the hereditary as a bound spell, either orc or goblin. Perfect. Beautiful. I've been asking for that. I said that a long time ago. Make the Great Green Idol have a bound spell of some sort, right? It still only has 3 attacks, strength 6, lost its impact hits, but it gained something that took me about 2 or 3 times to look through the book to notice this. It gained Unbreakable. And the Unbreakable's like, a tough 8 monster with Unbreakable, he's going to sit there. Any orcs in horde formation near him, 6 inches from him, will now gain rank bonuses. So that's pretty cool as a buff. He does Something I heard in a video yesterday in the Wicked GT review. Somebody was talking about the Mammoth, and they were like, the Mammoth is something that gets to play in every round of every game. Basically, it has a magic, it has a guy shooting on top, it could fight in close combat, and it lowers agility, right? So that's a monster that allows you to play in every phase of the game. Now the Great Green Idol could play in about 2 or 3 phases of the game. You know what I mean? It doesn't get any ranged, but it can be in combat. It could hold up in the movement phase things that cannot move it. And then it can buff up your orcs by giving them rank bonuses, and it can also give them the spell. And having that option, I think, is pretty cool. The first draft of the first list I played with had 8 spells, and I was like, and half of them are bound spells. I was like, whoa, this is too much. This is too much power for me. Overall, all right, I'm gonna just give you my closing thoughts. That was basically what the book is up to today. I don't know if they're gonna change anything on the finalized version. That's the version that was in the reviews from PTG and Swamp Swimmer and Orko. But basically, my initial thought was negative. My initial thought was like, oh, they took away my armor piercing. They took away my pukes. What the fuck? God, motherfuckers, they always want to take shit away. God damn you, motherfucker T9A bastards. I bet you they work for fucking Games Workshop. Anyways, my second thought of it after I started playing with lists was they do allow you to get hordes for cheap, and that's what Orcs and Goblins should have been. Always I agree 100%. That's what the Orcs and Goblins should have been. They should have been a horde army. They got hit for, and I remember coming into 8th edition Warhammer, I remember saying, man, I'm only agility 2, and somebody saying, well, yeah, you're supposed to get hit, but you're supposed to have enough bodies to hit back. And that is a lot easier to do with this book. Right now, I understand it's the alpha book. I understand things are going to change. I think that some people might find things broken. I don't know if it's broken. I don't know if it's power crept. I don't know because I've only tried out one game really. But it has tools to play. That's how I put it. It has tools to play a fun game regardless. And if you are creative in your mindset, you could find real fun ways to play many of the options. There's plenty of options to play with. I came up with a list, and one of my friends came up with a list, and it was totally different. So yeah, that's what I have to say about that. I sped through a lot of it. I might have been missing a lot of stuff there, but I think for the most part I got most of it that mattered. Yeah, I hope to see what you guys build. If you guys want to start running through list ideas and put it in the comment section below, I'd like to see them. All right. In the meantime, peace.